Hello dear group members, I'm Peter Platt and we have a new drawing for correction. The drawing was posted by FS Links and he wrote to us, was practicing the nose and decided to finish things up, and I ended up here. Don't know how to manage the hair. To our members here, especially Mr. Peter, I hope you share your idea with this one or correct me instead. Thank you in advance. I also put a question on the comment section and I asked him if he has any reference, and he said he wrote to us, "No sir, I don't have any reference for that, it's just my imagination," and I got stuck on the hair. So first things first, I want to share my thoughts about this drawing because a lot of time I see that a lot of people struggles with drawing portraits from imagination and from their mind, and it's pretty hard because you have to understand that you need to have a good amount of experience with portraiture before you start to draw something from your imagination. And a good example would be that let's see, if you want to write a book and the book would contain about 15,000 words, but you happen that you know only about 12,000 from them, then your book wouldn't be finished because you don't have your vocabulary for that. The same thing happens when you are drawing. You don't have enough vocabulary of forms, shapes and characters for starting to draw something from imagination if you don't draw enough. So if you want to write your book with 15,000 words, you have to wait and you have to read more and more for 2 years, 3 years, until you have finished your vocabulary. Your vocabulary starts to be richer and richer, and then you can start to write your book. The same thing is also with the drawing. If you don't have the base and you don't have didn't had drawn a lot of people after nature, you don't have a good reference in your head, you don't have a good vocabulary in your head for starting to draw something from your imagination. That's the first thing I want to share, because I see a lot of people starts to draw portraits from their imagination, and some parts of the portrait can come out really nice, but they aren't good as a whole. So the same thing it's happening here. We have a good nose, so he wrote to us that he was practicing the nose and decided to finish things up, and it seems that the nose is pretty nice, it's pretty good as shape and as all, so it's a nice nose from profile, but the other things in the portrait doesn't follow the nose. So if you are hiding all the portrait, we can see that the portrait eye is an eye from front. It's drawn from front and it's not from profile. It's not the same angle like the nose. Also the mouth is the same thing. The mouth is a kind of semi-profile. It's not from profile. If you are hiding all the portrait, you can see that the mouth is a little bit from semi-profile. It's not from profile and it's not from front. So there are a few problems because the construction of the portrait. So I really like the eyes. They are the eye is really nice drawn. It's really nice, but the angle isn't the same which you would need to have for this portrait. But as a part of the portrait, it's pretty nice. The eyes, it's pretty nice. Alright. Also, I want to mention the nose is pretty nice also from profile, but things aren't going very well because some parts of the portrait, like the nose, is from profile, like the mouth is from semi-profile, the eyes are from front, and this makes the portrait a little bit weird. So the same thing was made by Egyptian art when they have been representing the portrait from profile, but the eyes from front. But that's not the same thing as drawing something natural. So this was kind of what I wanted to tell about this portrait. With the hair, there are a lot of problems. Also, you can start with the hair as a big shape, and after you find the big shape, you can start to deconstruct the big shape and to find the smaller shapes and the strengths. But there are problems also with the back of the head. As I see here, you drove this back of the head. You have your portrait too big for your paper, and you can't imagine where it should come, the back of the head. That's another thing. If you want to start to draw a portrait, try to include all the parts of the portrait in the drawing, so you don't end up with a line from here, something that goes in that direction, and a neck from here, which shows us that we have a huge amount of head in the back of the face. Also, it would be better if you would construct your portrait so you can put all the parts of the portrait in the paper. So that's another thing about portraiture. I would suggest you to start, if you start to draw some portrait, at least use some reference if you don't have live model, and also start to learn about the basic shape of the portrait. Because you are in need of that. And if you do study of a nose, you should leave it like that, and don't start to build a portrait around the nose. If you are starting to draw a portrait, try to make a composition about it. So if we have a nice paper like this, you should consider to put your portrait like all the parts of the portrait should go inside of the paper, like this. Alright. Also, you would need to learn a lot about anatomy, about the parts of the portrait, about the measuring of a portrait. So every portrait has some common measurements, and would be great to know about that. So if you have a portrait like this, alright, you should know that in the middle of the portrait, it's always the eyes. Alright, always the eyes in the middle of the portrait. Between the eye level and the chin, in the middle, we have all the time the bottom of the nose. Alright, the same thing happens on the upper side, in the between the eyes and the upper side of the head, in the middle, kind of, we have our hairline. Alright, and also we have our ears, which are starting at the eye level, are going a little bit up and going down to the eye, till the nose level. Also, between the nose and chin, at half, we have about the mouth, and the mouth should be wider till the middle of the eyes, like this. Alright, not wider than that. They can be smaller but not wider. So we have here our eyes. Alright, and these are some measurements which are a little bit common on people. For sure, there are people with a smaller nose, with a larger mouth, or some or longer face, or smaller eyes. But the common measurements are which I had been drawing here, and you should consider those. You should learn those, not just from front, but from profile also. We have the bottom of the chin, the upper part of the head. In the middle we have the eyes. Alright, here we have the eyes. In the middle, between the eyes and chin, we have the nose. Alright, we have our ear there. Alright, and this should be learned so you don't mess up with your portrait. Alright, the same thing you can start here. If you have all the composition, you see that you don't miss any form, any shape of your model from the page. You can start to draw her or him. You can start to draw her nose, the line of the nose. You can start to draw the head shape, the forehead. You can start to put the ear, the mandible. Right, also you should follow the lines of the perspective, which you need to learn. Alright, also. And that's how you start to construct your portrait. Alright. After you have your portrait done a little bit, that's her eye. Alright, you can start with the hair. I don't know which kind of hair did you want. You can draw big strands of hair, the big shape, the big volume of the hair. I don't know what kind of hair did you wanted to draw, but you need to find the shape which you want to draw. The big shape. If you don't like it, you just erase it and you start all over again. So let's see. You see that I don't draw too much strands of the hair. I want to find some big shapes of the hair. And the directions from there in the middle of the head. Alright, now we have a little bit more as a guy hair, but we can draw anything else. Just need to be careful with the shape of the head, because the shape of the head, the hair follows the shape of the head, so we need to be careful with that. So let's put back a little bit his or her ear. Alright, and let's put some hair, some longer hair, like that. Alright, so this is it. I really like this kind of hair. I hope that it's visible on the drawing, on the video. I try to find some shapes and like that. Let's see. I really don't like her lips. It's a little bit better. It's pretty hard to draw without reference, so maybe her nose is a little bit long. She's looking down, so the measurement between her nose and chin starts to be a little bit smaller because of the perspective. and starts to take shape. If it's about woman, I like a little bit more, much more curved nose and the pointy one, so it's just a personal preference. And she's looking down. It's easy by the other side of the eye, so I didn't did the portrait from profile. I did rotate it a little bit. So it starts to take shape. That's the eyelid. Alright, let's see something from her. Alright, and so you can see that my drawing size has all the portrait, all the parts of the portrait in the paper, so it's a little bit easier to find the shapes. Right. She has here the like that. Alright. Right, so you need a little bit more about anatomy and about portraiture. So the last thing is about hair. You need to learn about measurements, about proportions, so you don't mess up your portrait. Right. And another thing is that I really wrote a lot about that. You can find a nice book about anatomy. I know there are a lot of books about anatomy, but you can find one specific about written by Gottfried Bames. Bames. Okay, he has a few books for anatomy for artists, so it's pretty nice, and it has all you need for the proportions, all you need for muscles, and the big shapes of the human body. Right, and you can study him because he is used in almost every art university for teaching anatomy for artists, and it's pretty good. It has all the proportions for kids, for women, for men, for adults, and all the proportions, not just for faces, but for all types of bodies, and also the big shapes, how to draw the big shapes of the body. So it's pretty good. You just need to take it and start to copy some of his drawings and learn about them. And also we will have soon some new homework on the group, so you will find some homework about anatomy and about the big shapes of the portrait. We will start the portrait from the first steps to the left. So I also have made some good 3D models for that, and in a few days it will be up and you can start to study them. You can start to learn about them and from them, and don't forget that it would be great if you could use references for your portraits, but it's best if you have some friends who would be possible to sit as a model, so you could draw after live model. That would be the best thing you could do. For sure you have some friends who could stay as a model. Explain to them that you are not a professional. For sure your first portraits wouldn't come out as you planned, and for sure not all your friends would like what you do, but these are the steps on how to learn and how to exercise to learn to draw portraits and human anatomy, and basically that's the steps how you learn to do art. So even if I put homework, a building, a picture of a building for perspective, you can go outside in the city and you can start to draw your buildings in the city. It's much more better than sitting at home and drawing some pictures, some picture references. Sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes you don't have a choice because you can't find everything in your hometown. Maybe you don't have money for going somewhere to draw something nice. And then you use some references, but pictures. But most of the time, when you are in a phase of study and you are in the phase of learning, it's better to draw and paint and study after the real model. That's why a lot of time I say that it's better to draw a portrait after your friend then you draw 100 portraits after pictures, after picture references. Alright, that's about who wanting to learn to draw. So study, if it's about study, then it's about a natural model. So if you don't have any choice, you can use references, but it's better if you have model. It's better if you can learn from nature. Alright, so this is it for now, and if you have any questions, please let me know, and waiting for your works further on. Hope to see them and hope to see your homeworks, and I wish you all the best. Alright, that's it. Goodbye.